Hi, this is the JET podcasts for product training. This is for the your CV review session. So I'm just going to introduce myself and the course content, the ethos of everything to do with it. So I'm just going to introduce Andy, who's on the call. Hi, Andy.
Hi, Sam. How are you?
Good, thanks. And you?
I'm good, thank you.
Jolly good. So like I said, I'm going to basically just run through this session. Obviously, you've read the materials already. Is that correct?
Yes.
Jolly good, because obviously the first thing we would say is if you haven't, pause this podcast, go away, read the materials, come back, start listening to it. Okay, brilliant. Okay, so I'm Sam Hallam. I've been working for Reading Partnership for 16 years. I started out as an advisor on the employment zone, and then I moved into a training role and managed trainers across London, delivering employer-led and vocational courses. And I've been part of the curriculum team, actually helped start it up for the last 10 years. Got a level 5 in leadership and management qualification, level 3 and 4 in advice and guidance. I'm also the qualified performance coach for the business. So once you guys are in post, you will be observed during your role, delivering your role at some point. And if you score a 3 or below, which is based on the Ofsted's rating standards, you'll have the really lucky experience of spending some quality time with me or one of my colleagues in L&D. I'm also as well the company additional learning needs champion. So you may hear ALN champions being bandied around at some point. And my areas of specialism are criminal records, autism, Asperger's, dyslexia and dyspraxia. They're not linked for any reason. They're just areas of specialism that we've developed over the years. How does that sound so far, Andy?
It sounds fantastic. Thank you.
Super duper. Okay, so in terms of the curriculum development team, we're really lucky in this business to have this team in place. It can be Marmite sometimes with trainers. We all understand, everyone likes writing their own materials. However, as a business, we made a decision that our participants should be having the same experience wherever they are, whoever's delivering it. So if they're sitting on Effective Job Search, that session should feel exactly the same and look the same, whether they're in Durham, Northern Ireland, Cornwall, London, Leeds. So that is why we have pulled together that in terms of the curriculum team doing all of the writing. But as an organisation, we do recognise that sometimes there's elements of the course content that don't always meet the needs of people that are sat in front of us when we're delivering. We've all done it. We've all come from that training background. So what we have is what we call a substitution policy. So think of it like when you complete a grocery shopping online. As a result of COVID, we've all become more familiar with online shopping than we ever have done before. And think of it that you've, don't you, really? It's just ridiculous. Yeah. So think of it that you've ordered a chicken and mushroom pie and they didn't have one. So they have actually substituted it for a chicken pie. So the actual product itself has not changed. The function of it, the taste of it has not changed. The contents of it has not changed. The overall aim of it has not changed. All that's happened is one small element has been removed, that being the mushroom. And that's what we'd like you to think about.
That sounds good.
So when you're delivering, we want you to think about this. You can't change the actual content of the course that you've got in front of you. You can't change the guided learning hours or the learning outcomes. But what you can do is adjust an activity or a discussion point to get the same learning outcome, but in a slightly different way. So, for example, if you complete an activity using a game online rather than using flashcards in the classroom, it might be that due to the demographics of your group, you need to look for a slightly different video that we've got. But still, it needs to be double checked before things like that. Yeah. So another thing, though, that we really want you to be aware of is when the substitution policy is not applicable to health and wellbeing advisors. Okay, it's only to the employment and skills training role. You may be sat alongside a health and wellbeing advisor in your office, and we do encourage everyone to share best practice, but they can't change their content because they're delivering materials on health products that have been signed off by the health professionals and are in line and meet the guidance of Public Health England. So that's the reason why they can't change it. Okay.
All right, that's good to know. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
During your time delivering, you will take part in team calls, which will give you an opportunity to share best practice. So we really encourage you to do this. So as you're delivering, thinking about it from how you're getting the response from the learners, and taking that back to the rest of your group. Now, as with everything within Reading Partnership, we have a product evaluation cycle. So we review our materials regularly, naturally, because some of the things is very current and up to, they rely on things being current and up to date. And with new content such as the JET curriculum that's just being developed, it will be delivered by you guys for the next 3 months. At that point, evaluation cycle, taking feedback from participants, from yourselves, and we'll also consider any of that feedback that you've given during the best practice calls, and all that feedback's reviewed, and then any changes needed will be made as a group. Okay, so one of the things here as well that I want you to think about, all of us have got our own, as we all know as professionals, we've all got our own learning styles. We naturally will like to train and deliver to that learning style. So there will be activities that you come across that you don't feel that you really like, or they don't really come quite keen to you. So it's like, be objective and professional with this. We want the feedback based on the reaction of the learners, not how you feel delivering it, because it's not about you, is it? You know that stuff. Yeah. All right, so that's about you kind of looking inward and saying, I need to stretch myself a little bit more and stretch that learning style that isn't natural to me, and embrace it a little bit more, which is how you can keep your training content a bit more edgy and keep your finger on the pulse. Okay.
Yeah, brilliant.
Okay, so like I've said, the purpose of this podcast is to talk through the ethos of the course, provide you any hints and tips for delivery. It's essential, like I said at the beginning, that you've read all the materials for the podcast, including all the handouts and the worksheets. If you've not done that, guys, anybody else that's listening, please pause, go away, read it, come back.
Right, well.
Okay. So obviously the biggest thing here is that life has changed significantly for all of us, including the way we share information and now how we train individuals. So these sessions have been reduced in time and changed in terms of the delivery methods to accommodate the current global situation with the pandemic. What we really need to consider at the moment is how we support our participants and ensure that they still have a good experience during their time with us, even though it might be slightly more removed and remote. So please be mindful of those participants who are not tech savvy. Don't assume that everyone knows that Zoom and Teams and knows, I don't. I'm still getting used to using Microsoft Teams myself, as I'm sure you guys are coming in.
Yeah, certainly am.
Yeah. So if you are one of the fortunate few that can do face-to-face group delivery in-house, then think about the people that you bring in. Bring in those people that aren't quite so tech savvy and leave the ones that are tech savvy to do the remote learning. So bring those people in. They need a bit of a nurture and a little bit of a support. So do it in terms of that. Okay.
Yep.
Super. Okay, so we're going to go on. I'm just going to click into CV review. Okay, so this is a refresher. So we've got to be we were talking about this earlier in terms of just how we handle this topic, because a lot of people will be very adamant that their CV is okay, it's up to date, they don't need to do anything more, and they're quite happy to have their 25 years of experience on their CV and their 4.5 pages in length, So this is about managing those individuals and bringing them up to speed without coming across as being condescending. So with this, we really want them to think about and be honest with their CV. Obviously, you're using templates as much as possible. And one of the biggest things here, obviously, is the reference to the Online Careers Centre. Obviously, you will hear it being called OCC. That's not some kind of weird program. I was trying to think if there was a program. It was the OC, wasn't it? Yeah. Years ago. Making reference to the CV Builder and the CV 360. And it's really important that your role as trainers through this session, you are selling those supporting tools for the individuals during these courses. Okay, so we want you to really kind of make if you're not familiar with those, get online, have a look at the Career Centre, make sure you understand what the CV Builder and the CV 360 is.
So effectively giving them the ownership of their CV, but we're going to guide them.
That's it, exactly. And the whole ethos of everything that we do in Reed in Partnership with regards to CVs, you've hit the nail on the head, and that it's about giving them autonomy. We shouldn't be writing their CVs for them. As we all know, employers know straight away if somebody's written the CV. You know, they will know within 5 minutes of speaking to them.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing here is we have changed the way that the CV sessions run, in the sense that now we've got the emphasis on telephone and video or online interviews now that are taking place because of COVID. So one of the things that we're going to look at is obviously just refreshing what the CV is and what it does, because the CV has evolved over the years, and this is the problem. People don't realise that it's no longer making reference to it as the curriculum vitae. It's dead in the water. It's old. It's not about your path, the path of your life as it was originally. You know, it's about, this is a marketing tool. It needs to be short, sharp, to the point, sits in front of an employer, and it encourages them to read on and find out about you and want to give you that seat at interview. So that's what it is for, is to get you that seat at an interview. So we really want to hammer this home with individuals now in terms of that. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously, one of the issues here is with the time. We want to be able to spend lots and lots of time with individuals, helping them with their CV. That they are professionals, they are perhaps graduates, they have been in work, they should know the fundamentals of all of it. So this is just a refresher to remind and ensure that people are on the same path.
Right, yeah.
All right. So once we've identified what it is, what it should include, so there you've got, you know, your key contacts. This will give you an opportunity. You may need to, if you've seen somebody's CV and it's got a photograph or something on it and it's old school, it's got marital status, you can kind of bring that into it.
Right, yeah.
At the bottom of page 3 and 4 of the lesson plan, you'll see in terms of why an employer uses it. So they're using it to screen out candidates so they can keep costs down, to see how well you can meet their needs, demonstrating your English language. So really it's getting them to think about that. Also, you've got there the reference to James Reed's new book, 7 Second CV, which is a course for, but, you know, employers only take 7 seconds to look at your CV and make a decision as to whether or not they put you on the yes or the no pile.
Yeah.
So that's another thing to think about.
Right, yeah.
Page 4, it goes into the purpose of a CV is to get you that seat at interviews. So there's the common mistakes that are made. Again, it's this emphasis of no more than 2 pages long, right? And we really need to make sure that people let go of that experience of, you know, 10, 15 years ago. No more than 10 years, no more than you've had a really good role at something, but, you know, we've got to help them with that.
I guess it's better that people realise that the employer gets bored of reading your CV, and if they're bored, you've lost it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that goes nicely, that links nicely, thank you, to the lengthy personal profiles. So, you know, they're just to remind them that it should be no more than 4 to 6 sentences. They need to think about 50 to 200 words, and that's it on that personal statement or profile. You know, again, that's their core intro. And if you've bored them at that point, you really are in trouble.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, then you're taking them into that discussion about would you send the same CV to 5 different job vacancies? So again, this is us now encouraging them to tailor. So you've got that whole discussion there, and you'll see that when you're working them in groups, if the activities kick in, you've got 2 different colours on your lesson plans, guys. F to F, which is obviously face-to-face groups, which is those that are in the training room, and then which is in orange, and then the remote is purple. So that's for you delivering Teams or Zoom, however it's going to go.
Right, yeah.
One of the things here as well, when you're delivering, we're now making reference to the chat box on Teams. So we really want you to ensure that you guide your learners to use the chat box function. They can attach documents to it. So what we want them to do is have a blank Word document saved on their desktop, that they can use for their answers, and they can then save that and attach it to the chat box function.
Right. Yeah.
So that will in fact, replace the kind of flip chart activity in the classroom, and it just helps keep these sessions a little bit more interactive, and it helps you make sure that you keep your participant awake, and that they're not dying a death at the end of the camera.
And you can test them.
Yeah. And also we've got the thumbs up. I wanted the thumbs up, thumbs down, but they don't have it, so they've only got the thumbs up emoji. But that's also another nice way of asking them just to respond if they're okay, are they getting it, give them a thumbs up.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So that also as well, we thought would be really nice with using the Word document idea, is also helping them with their IT skills and just refreshing them in terms of saving a document, naming it, attaching it to something, so it gets them in the habit of doing that for a CV.
Yeah.
Okay. Then of course we're going into marketing your personal brand. This is being used now instead of marketing yourself or sell yourself, which always sounds a bit archaic now, doesn't it, when you think of it?
Never a pleasant phrase to use.
Yeah, it just feels, it feels really egotistical as well, really. I mean, I don't think personal brand is that much better, but it just doesn't sound quite so cheesy, I don't think.
Yeah.
Prospects, all the university sites, they're all using language. So is the National Careers Service, they're using it. So understanding your brand, so thinking about this next activity is getting them to think about good and bad marketing campaigns. When you think about Warburton's Good Bagel, that whole play on with Robert De Niro, and Iceland's banned Christmas advert with the orangutan caused absolute fury, didn't it, over the Christmas period? People really remembered Iceland for that, didn't they?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So it's getting them to think about those, and then think about poor quality marketing campaigns. So they do get in your head, but they're not remembered for a good reason, and they leave a bad taste in your mouth. So that annoying Go Compare or We Buy Any Car advert, or that fabulous marketing stint where Apple forced everybody to download U2's album. And I think, I don't know about you, but I think U2's popularity definitely dropped.
It wasn't a good album either.
No. So again, this is all thinking about, we want them to think about how they want to be perceived by an employer. Do you want to be remembered positively, or that?
Yeah.
So again, we're talking about what constitutes good and bad or poor personal branding, and it's not using those cliche words of, giving 110% and being dynamic,
About how to be an individual.
Yeah, highly motivated. Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah.
So moving forward from there, obviously we're going into the realms of the CV itself. So the professional profiler. So here, if you've delivered this course before, you'll have seen they just basically get a couple of sentences from personal profiles, and they have to score them. A being really good, excellent, C, poor, and then the individuals that will then work on their own profiles. So as a result of doing that activity, so they do the first part where they kind of work it through, and then the second part they create it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
How are we feeling so far?
Good. It all makes logical sense, and I think it's all very structured and it sounds simple, and yeah, I think the challenge will be understanding people to mindset to move from the old-fashioned CV, into this is, as I call it, your Asda leaflet. So that leaflet that you get through the door. Why am I going to shop at Asda instead of Sainsbury's this week?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's the challenge.
Yeah, and it's also as well. James uses it in his book. It's a really nice kind of analogy of saying to an employer, of demonstrating why you're one of the best candidates for the job. So taking that pressure off yourself. You're not saying that you're the best, you're not that you're singing or dancing, but what it is you can help them in their business by filling their skills gap, and this is how you can fill it.
I think that's the important thing I found, is that quite often there's, I call, an arrogant way of your CV, which is, I'm going to send out my CV and you're going to make it fit to your needs.
Yeah.
Actually, we need to flip that and say, you've told me what you want, and I'm going to tell you that I can do it. And I think that's the key change that James was trying to get through to people.
Yeah, love it. So that leads us nicely into the key skills thing. So it's obviously, how do you know which of your skills you need to put in to those key skills or technical skills sections of your CV? It depends on what kind of CV you're going for. So obviously then this is, like we've said before in previous courses, so if we want really trainers at this point to be selling the transferable skills courses, it could be that you'll put your signposting them to the online career centre for transferable skills help there. So it's at this point really want you to think about, you know, where you can support them further, because obviously this is such a short period of time that you have with them to do this.
Yeah.
So from there, then you're going on into, can they find them? So at this point, we want them to look at a job vacancy. Ideally, you would have set it up that they bring a live job vacancy with them to this session. That's, you know, they're going to benefit the best if we use their own CV and their own job vacancies. But be prepared to fire across a sample one if need be, you know, and this is you keeping in touch with recruitment in the area and being able to send that forward.
I was just going to mention that point, that it's possibly always good to maybe speak to the RMs just before, because they might actually have something that is actually live there and then.
Yeah, which is brilliant, and they know where there's big recruitment drives, especially if it's seasonal. You know, now we're coming into Christmas jobs, aren't we?
Yeah.
So they'll be recruiting now, September, October, ready for Christmas. Yeah. So yes, it's definitely a given with using your RM at this point with this. So once you've got that, you want them to then go through the job vacancy. Now, obviously, your remote participants, if they don't have a printer, they're not going to be able to highlight their job vacancy. But what we would say is instead get them to put it in chat box or do it on their Word document, however they want to do it, you know, whatever they're comfortable with. Yeah. And get them to identify and write out what those skills and qualities are that they're looking for. And then obviously we want them to match their own skills to the ones that they've identified in the job. So that's what you were saying just then, Andy, you know, in terms of having that time to match and show how you're going to meet their needs.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. Good.
Then going in terms of that, we touched on it previously at the beginning about the importance of tailoring your CV, so not sending the same CV out for all job roles. So again, it's getting them to think about the order of the skills, because employers will often put the most important one first. So you list your skills in that same order. So it's getting them to think about it in terms of that.
It's getting the participant to understand that the easier it is for the employer, the more likely they are to get through.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That is definitely what they're saying. Well, we'd like them to see it like that. We'd like them to see it like that.
This is the number one skill they're wanting. Make sure that your number one skill is that.
Yeah.
It's the first skill you highlight.
Use the same language as well, which is often what happens with the ATS, the automatic system, where they sift you, don't they? And an employer will have asked for, you know, somebody
IT
with
literate.
Yeah, excellent IT skills, and somebody puts I'm IT literate, they won't get through. Yeah. You have to say you've got excellent IT skills. You have to mimic what's in the job advert. Yeah. So obviously then we're going through from that point in terms of, can you give an example of how to quantify? So how can you evidence that you can meet the employer's needs? So for example, they've asked for, so if you look at the top of page 10 of your lesson plan, the employer has asked for effectively communicate with third parties, both internal and external. So you would need to respond to that in terms of something along the lines of, I've got over 5 years experience of handling both internal and external third party queries and complaints whilst working for PJ Food Manufacturing as an assistant shift manager. Yeah. So there you've used exactly the same language that the employers asked for. You've supported saying you've got that experience by the amount of time that you've worked there, the position that you held, and where it was that you were working. So the employer can go, ooh, 5 years, huh? Cool. I like that. So this is what we're trying to get them through. Hey?
Hit them hard and hit them fast with it.
Hit them hard and fast. I like it. Yes. So then we go into, again, we just break it down again with a more kind of a slightly lower entry level role, and they required an experienced customer service assistant. And again, you can simply reply by, I've worked for IKEA for over 3 years as a customer service assistant. So again, that's demonstrating it because you've worked there for 3 years. So it shows that you're experienced. It's not, you've not been there for 3 days.
Yeah.
The fifth activity, matching me, matching you. So this is the one where they choose their chosen job vacancy, they highlight their skills, and they, you know, they've done a couple of practices and now they're doing it for themselves. And this is where we'd want them all. You've got the differentiation where all of them are going to do 2 and some will actually create all. I'm really hoping that they'll be able to create all because they should be quite savvy, the ones that you've got coming through.
Yeah.
So really kind of push them with this. I think they're more than capable of doing it. They've just come fresh out of work, so it's, you know, there shouldn't be that much of an issue really.
Yeah.
Then once they've done that, you're going into, okay, you're pointing them in the direction of the online career centre and the CV builder and the 360 CV 360. So you've got all of that reference there. You could bring it up on the screen as well and do a screen share of it and show them, which would be really nice at that point. Obviously with this as well, I've given you templates of different CVs. So you've got school leaver, you've got people that need reverse chronological and skills-based CVs. So you've got all of those in there as well.
Yeah.
Now, the sad thing is, obviously, we've only got an hour and a half to do this. So cover letters are more important than a CV, really, because you could have the most amazing CV, and if you've got the naffest cover letter, you're not going to get through the door.
Yeah.
So, you know,
cover letter's the icing on the cake, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? Yeah. So
it doesn't look good, then the cake ain't going to get eaten.
It's just the best analogy. Yeah. So you need to make sure that you've got to spend some time doing that. Don't spend all your time doing your CV. The Online Career Centre can help you with that. So we really want to push them in that direction, and also in the sense of support with their advisor as well, with doing their cover letters. So it's really important that that discussion is had about a cover letter and how important it is.
Yeah.
Then obviously you go through to your aims and objectives, review it all, and you ask them, we didn't actually talk about it at the very beginning, but there is an activity where we ask them to confidence rate themselves, their CV, on a post-it note in the classroom, or in chat box, or through discussion with you, if they're remote. So at the very beginning of the session, we asked them, you know, how confident are you about your CV? I really like this because a lot of people will go 7 or 8. And then actually when they've gone through this and they've gone, oh, actually, no, maybe not. So it's like, okay, revisit that score. Do you still think you're a 7 or an 8? Nah, not. Let me change that. I am a 7 or 8 now. So yeah, so get them to re-rate their confidence ratings in terms of that.
Yeah.
And that is CV review in a nutshell. How are you feeling about that, Andy? Have you got any questions?
Yeah. It seems very logical. I just think that the biggest challenge is getting people to change their mindset, particularly maybe those that have been in one role for a long time, that have suddenly, you know, might be in 15 years, 20 years since the last did a CV.
Yeah.
And they may, I'm sort of probably right in thinking their CV may be very old style.
Yeah. Like you say, if they've got one at all, and if they do, it will be probably very archaic with marital status on it and things like that, and how many children they've got, and the fact that they pebble dashed their driveway 30 years ago.
Yeah. So would I be right in thinking that the advisors should really have a CV for them already before they're on the course that we can at least work off?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody should bring a CV to the session.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be very disappointing. This is not a session that, you know, you can come and start creating. This is about you refreshing and upskilling, and just a bit of a reminder. So it'll be that they've had the template. The advisor should have shown them how to get that information and pull it all together and bring it in, and then it'll be for you guys to then help them smarten it up, create that profile, and understand how to do the QSPs.
Yeah.
With the view then that they go back to their advisor, you know, and the advisor will then continue to finish off anything that's been missed through this.
And I guess you would encourage the participant afterwards to to let their advisor proofread it before they send it out.
Always and forever.
Yeah.
You've got a little hints and tips form to hand out that you read through with them. And one of those things it says on there is making sure that you get somebody to proofread it, but make sure that the person is in work.
Right. Yes.
So it's not being disrespectful to your family members or friends, but you really need people that are, we've all done it, you know, for those of us that have been on furlough, for those of you that have now, you know, I've been out of work for a couple of months, if you actually sit down and go to write a professional sentence, it goes really quickly.
Yeah.
You know, it's happened to me. So,
Yeah.
you know, always have somebody who's working to proofread for you.
It's good. No, I think there's lots of good things in there, Sam, and I think if we stick to the structure, you know, we'll see participants. Hopefully, I guess the idea is that they're going to question their own CV.
Yeah.
I think that's the aim. Is if they're going away, even if they're going away looking more confused than what they started, it's probably a good thing because they're probably questioned got already.
Yeah.
And it's I'm seeing it as it's to encourage them to get away from generic phrases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get away from those cliches.
Yeah, that sounds excellent.
Brilliant.
Really looking forward to teaching this.
Fabulous. Well, as with everything, as we know, once you start delivering, sometimes more questions pop up. Or it might be that you go away and read this again and you'll have a few more questions. So if you need anything, always here. So you can just get hold of me. My email is samantha.hallam, HALLAM for mother, @read.com. And my extension is 29958.
All right. Thank you very much. I've got a note of that, Sam.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.